because I don't want to take any more time without introducing our guest. I've been incredibly blessed to have been connected with this person. Carol is an amazing person. She has an amazing story. She does amazing things to help people in the business world and in their personal lives. But what really struck me is when we started talking about her being the queen of reframing. And I said, oh my gosh, that's the perfect puzzle piece for my second session in this challenge. It's all about creativity and resourcefulness and taking the puzzle pieces life has put in front of you when you think your puzzle has been destroyed and being able to put them back together again. And so she's written an amazing book, for women who live and work and act like a boss. And she has done many, many, many workshops and trainings. She was a champion collegian and she was a professional tennis player. So she brings together that discipline and that drive and that focus from being an elite competitive athlete to being an elite coach and an elite businesswoman. And I'm incredibly grateful, incredibly proud to have her join us today. So, Carol, I want to welcome you to our little tribe here. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I would love for you to tell the folks here your story of how you got involved and how you became the queen of refrain. And maybe talk a little bit about how what you bring to the table fits into what we're doing today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here and I love pouring into people. This is like my favorite thing to do. So yes, I was an ex-collegiate and professional tennis player. And then I trusted in someone else's vision for me until I could believe it for myself. And that's how I went from being in Dallas, Texas, to ending up in Miami in a 26-year, very successful sales career for Fortune 100 companies. So there I was in the summer of 2014. I'd sold $70 million in revenue, walked the stages, gotten the awards, managed the people. I could do this in my sleep, right? I thought I had it made until the day I got that phone call. And they told me they were cutting my territory by 80%. And I'm like, 80%? I've been building this territory for 6.5 years. You didn't have to tell me twice, folks. I thought they were setting me up to fail. Now, I was a weird salesperson. I loved large corporate structure and I'm a rule follower. Not true for most salespeople, right? But a friend of mine whispered in my ear about an opportunity at a really small company. And I thought, I don't know what I don't know. So off I went. 2 interviews. They offered me the position. They doubled my base salary plus commissions, and they gave me a director title. I could just see the potential, right? So there I was 6 weeks into the job and I was on vacation because I negotiated that up front. I'd already paid for this vacation. And I was doing what I thought was a good thing at the time. I was staying in touch with my boss, the CEO, while I was on vacation. What does Maya Angelou teach us? When you learn better, you do better. So I do not advocate any of my clients working while they're on vacation, but there I was. So I got an email asking my opinion on something and I replied right back. And I waited because he usually replies right back. So we were in gorgeous, beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico, world's largest hot air balloon festival. If you've never been, hundreds and hundreds of balloons, right? All sizes and shapes and colors. We went out, we enjoyed the day. We came back after dinner and drinks and ding, there went my phone. Carol Boston, you've got mail. And here's what it said. It said, Carol, comma, that's what you really think? And it had 5 question marks behind it. Then it said, do not come into this office on Monday. When your vacation is over, you're done here. I'm like, what? Did I just get fired in an email? I don't get fired. Are you kidding me? So I came back, had an interview the very next day. Now, one of the things I tell people as a business leadership coach is I help female business owners and a few good men to know their value, own their power, and advocate for themselves so they rise up and become the lion and lioness leaders that they were created to be, resulting in many of them doubling and tripling the income in their business. That advocating piece is really important to me because I didn't advocate for myself when I got fired. Florida is an at-will state. I thought, oh, I can just get fired. And like my friend here, Mr. DeLuca, I went on interview after interview after interview. I was flown. I mean, companies spent money on me. I was flown all over this country, sometimes 3 and 4 interviews deep. And I thought, how ironic that I could close $70 million worth of business for somebody else, and I can't close a deal to get myself a job. Now, I did it a lot longer than he did, right? I was depleting my 401k, and faith is my foundation. And that's where I always go. So there I was many months into this process in my prayer time. And I was like, God, at this point, I was really yelling. I'm like, look, you created me. You know, I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. I do not want to own my own business. You got to help me find a good job. Literally 2 weeks to the day from that prayer, out of the blue, I got an email from a woman. I had met her one time out of town at a conference. We maybe chatted 30 minutes. Guess what she did? She gifted me a $3,500 ticket to go to Los Angeles to Guerrilla Business School. Now, I say my God has a sense of humor because Guerrilla Business School was a foundational school for entrepreneurs. I figured, I don't know what I don't know, and what I'm doing sure isn't working. So off I went to Los Angeles. Now, I have another book coming out in 2022, and it's going to be called You Can't Read the Label When You're Inside a Jar. And we're all in a jar, right? That's why we all need a good coach. All of the answers you're looking for are right outside your jar. You just don't know how to ask the right questions to get to them. The second thing I learned was about empowering questions, and I was amazed at them. And I've been working for the last 6+ years to master them. And I'm going to be teaching to you and talking to you about tonight, because that's how I became the queen of Reframe. So this is in May of 2015. I get introduced to these. And along the way, let's fast forward for almost 2.5 years to fourth quarter of 2017. Guess what I was doing? I was still in my freaking jar. I had 2 coaching certifications. I was coaching people, and I was still holding on to 3 products and services to sell into large corporations. Right into HR. Why is that? All I could see is that I was a buttoned up sales professional. That's all I could see. Now, one of the important things I learned I want to share with you, you may want to write this down, is that there's a big difference between being committed and being convicted. You see, I thought I was committed to what I was doing, but then I learned that people decommit every day, don't they? They say, I'm committed to this marriage for life until the day I'm not, right? Or I'm committed to this losing this 20 pounds until it just gets too hard. But when you're convicted, you will not rest until you get it done. And you understand that your comfort and your convenience and your conviction, they don't live on the same block. They're not even in the same zip code. And when I learned this, and I heard something from Lisa Nichols, and she said, honey, sometimes your greatest blessings come wrapped up in sandpaper. And I thought, man, I have been roughed up for the last 3 years. I burned the boats. I got rid of those 3 services, and I focused and was all in on plan A. And that was to become the best leadership coach that I could be. And that was in 2018. And that's what I've been doing for the last several years now. And in listening to my clients, when he talks about reframing stuff and mindset mastery, my clients in the first 2 years, most of them doubled and tripled their income in their business. And I would never say it out loud. I wouldn't say it out loud. I said, no, I'm not a business coach. I'm a leadership coach, right? I spent money working with multi-millionaire coaches who told me, you're a business coach. I'm like, no. I'm a leadership coach, right? Listen to how we label ourselves and we get stuck in our jar. And I had to do the mindset work to understand that I was afraid. I was afraid to own that outcome, because in my mind, if I said it, then every single one of my clients had to do it, or what? Or I had failed. And I was fortunate to have a great coach who helped me understand that, no, I show up 150% for my clients every single time. And I give them the tools and the techniques and the strategies. It's up to them to do the work. That was so freeing and so just, I can't begin to tell you for me. And it really began to open up so many doors. And one of the things I would tell you is that there's been 3 pivotal times in my life where I trusted in someone else's vision for me until I could believe it for myself. It's how I got a tennis scholarship to college, and I didn't start playing till I was 15. And we didn't have money for private lessons. I never had a private lesson. It's how I became a salesperson. It's how I became a professional speaker. And I don't know if you want me to talk about any of those stories to kind of embed that. I'm happy to do that. but I'm going to let you lead the conversation from here. But I love what I do.
Well, I think what you're talking about, first of all, it is so fascinating. Your story is fascinating and inspiring. And I think that, we have a real mix here. We have folks, who are retired. We have folks who are, working in jobs and careers. We have folks who have their own businesses. It's a real mix.
Okay.
But I'm listening to you and I'm hearing that everything you're talking about is applicable to everyone in their lives, because our lives are our business.
Yes.
When you look at it, our lives are our business. And whether it's, being a parent or being a business owner or being an employee or whatever it is you're doing and you're being,
Yes.
the way you run that time from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep is your business.
Absolutely. And how I do anything is how I do everything. That's a writer downer for you. How I do anything is how I do everything. And personal leadership is paramount. What does paramount mean? That means it's above all else. My last job in corporate America was at Paychecks, and I saw these young salespeople come in and they sold $100,000 this year, and they sold $100,000. All of a sudden, they sold $300,000. They're like, "Yeah, Carol, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to sell this every year." Guess what they did? They went right back to selling $100,000 because they didn't do the personal development work to sustain the growth. Listen, the things that people did for me, holding that vision for me until I could believe it for myself, is exactly what I do for my clients. And one of the first areas I work in is clarity. Here's a writer downer for you. Clarity is power. Clarity is power. Indecision will cost you way more than a poor decision any day of the week, because at least you got into motion and you can look at it and say, without judgment, this worked, this didn't work, and we can mid-course correct. But when I talk about clarity, it's actually biblical, Michael, that God says we must call things that aren't as though they are. We must believe and then we see. And so this foundational piece of work, I'll give you one example. I had a female family attorney back in 2018, and she'd had her own practice for 4 years, and she hired me. And so everything is customized in my business. There's no cookie cutter. There's no templates. And so I was helping her craft 10 to 12 empowered statements so that she could step in to who she was created to be. And one of the ones I crafted for her was, "I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm." She looked at me like I had lost my mind. She couldn't even spit the words out. She goes, "My law firm isn't growing. Why the hell you think I hired you?" So when that leap is too big from the story that they brought with them to who they were truly created to be, with my private clients, I have a couple of phrases that we put in front of that helps them begin that stretch. And I don't know if it was 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it was. And now listen, she was taller than me, and I used to have an office back then, and she had on heels. So she walks in one day and I'm looking up at her and she goes, "I'm a powerful CEO of a fast growing law firm." She finally owned it and embodied it. And if you go look at her testimonial on my website, part of it says, "I got more clients in the 6 months of working with Carol than I had gotten in the first 4 years of my practice." Part of that was owning she had a fast growing law firm. Now, fast forward to this past February, 3 years, it was my first live speaking engagement since COVID. And this same woman happened to be a co-chair of this extraordinary women's luncheon. So I go and I give my talk and I sit down to eat lunch afterwards. And she's sitting there. And I was like, "So Cindy, how's it going?" Folks, it had been over 3 years. She looked at me. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I just hired another paralegal, just hired another assistant, and I'm bringing on another attorney." It's continuing to grow because she owns who she was created to be. And oftentimes we get stuck in the tension between two truths: the truth of what our experience has told us that we are, and the truth of who we were truly created to be. And oftentimes we become enslaved. We become enslaved to that story because we fear the change of freedom on the other side.
Wow. This is really powerful and something we really need to stop and take notice of. We fear the change that comes from the other side.
Yes.
Even if that change can bring us the liberation we're seeking, the freedom, the next step. So this is probably something very important to talk about, and that is dealing with the fear of change is important if we want to change. Dealing with the fear of failing before we even try, and dealing with that analysis paralysis that creates procrastination and then stagnation.
Mhm.
What are some of the things you've done for yourself and for your clients that have helped them work with those?
The first thing I want you guys to write down, this is a huge writer downer, is what else is possible today? That is the most powerful of all empowering questions. I'm going to teach a little bit on empowering questions, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Empowering questions help you reframe from focusing on what isn't working. Come on, folks. What you focus on expands. If you're focused on what's not working, you're going to get more of what's not working. So they allow you to be curious. They cause you to ponder. They will challenge your capacity. They help you to get other people on the same page as you more quickly and with less resistance. A big thing that they do is they help take the emotion out of the conversation. Come on. If you had a tool in your toolbox that you could take the emotion out of the conversation, how many of you would have fewer arguments, right? An argument is all about ego. It's about who's right. Somebody's got to be right, right? I'd rather be happy than right. I gave up that being right thing a long time ago, right? Okay. So here's some caveats on empowering questions. They're specific and they're time bound. You are not to try to figure out the answer. The answer is not in your jar. You're telling God in the universe, I'm open to hearing, seeing, saying, or doing something I have never thought of before.
Yes.
And you actually put these questions out loud to God in the universe 6 to 8 times a day, and you go right back to doing what you were doing. The other thing, and it's a big key, is that you cannot be attached to the outcome. What does that mean? I remember I was speaking at American Express and to the HR department, and this lady's like, I got to focus on my outcomes. You know, I'm going to get graded and all this stuff, right? So a couple of years ago, I knew I was going to speak 3 times at the Tower Club of Fort Lauderdale in the month of November to different groups. Now I'm a member of the Tower Club. And you can already tell by the way I move around, I am not a stand behind a podium kind of girl, right? And all they had was a podium and they had a big old fat handheld mic. I'm like, this is not working for me. So I went over there and I talked with a young lady and I said, well, what else is possible? And she said, that's the way we've always done it. And I said, I know, but what else is possible? And she said, Carol, we've done it like this for 70 years. I said, I understand, but I'm curious. What else is possible? After I did this about 6 times, she's like, I'll go ask. A week later, in the 70-year history of the Tower Club, I was first lavalier mic. I was testing out their first lavalier collar mic. Now, here's what I want you to take away from that. If I had gone in there attached to the outcome and I told them I must have a headset mic, I might not have gotten a solution. I didn't care what the solution looked like as long as I didn't have to stand behind a podium or carry a big fat mic. That's what it means to not be attached to the outcome. I'm going to give you a couple of powerful writer downers. An empowering question never, ever starts with the word why. Write that down. Why brings in defensiveness, which brings in the ego, which brings in emotions. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. It's true for every human being. Now, people say to me, oh, I know, Carol, man, when I get angry, I say stuff that I don't like. It's not just when you're angry. Feelings are, right? We've decided as human beings, we're going to label anger as bad and happiness is good. And nothing has meaning except that which you give it. Think about the lady who goes to Las Vegas to have a good weekend. And she's having fun. And she wakes up the next morning with some dude in her bed and a ring on her finger. And she has no idea who he is. She was having fun, but her emotions were still what? Out of control. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. Empowering questions start with who, what, how, and sometimes where. Who, what, how, and sometimes where. They never, ever start with why. I had a client back in 2018. The first time she came into my office, she was on time. Second time, she's a little late. Third time, by the fourth time, she was ridiculously late. Now, I'm going to shake your hand, give you a hug, girl. So she comes in, I give her a big hug, and I sit her down, and I say, get out your pen and paper. We're not going to miss this coaching opportunity. Now, we don't jump in quite like that. So she's kind of looking at me and said, write it down. How I do anything is how I do everything. Now, what's the first thing she wanted to do? what every human being would do, give a defensive story about why she's late. I said, I don't need a story. This is not about you being late. She said, it's not? I go, no. She said, what's it about? I said, it's about where else in your life are you not showing up for you? And she looked at me and she goes, what? I said, write it down. Where else in your life are you not showing up for you? You pay me in advance for my time. I am not giving you money back. And I'm not going to give you extra time because I have a schedule of clients that I keep. Now, I want you to really pay attention. I did not ask her why she was late. That would have gotten us nowhere. I said, she goes, is this my homework for the week? I said, this is your homework ad nauseum. I want it on your dashboard. I want it on your mirror. I want it on your refrigerator. I want it in your shower 6 to 8 times a day out loud, and don't try to figure it out. Are you willing to do that? And she said, yes. It could have been 6, 8, 10 weeks later. I don't know. She's in my office and we're working on a business challenge, and all of a sudden her eyes fly open. She said, oh my God, that's another place I'm not showing up for me. I said, exactly. You see, empowering questions create Oprah aha moments because they're things you're not aware of until you're willing to bring them into your awareness. And every time this happened, we were able to take this unhealthy habit and remove it and instill a new leadership habit. And in 6 months, we doubled the income in our business. Empowering questions never start with why. I can give you some other examples. I've got people, Michael, that are trying, will you put this together and teach parents, please? I'm like, because you can use them in all areas of life. I just happen to focus on the personal and on business. Was that helpful?
Extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. We had someone ask a question about, they call themselves the king of procrastination, and how can he get rid of that title? Could you talk a little bit about how, based on your experience and what you teach your clients, how we can tackle that problem of procrastination?
The first thing I would tell you is something I said a minute ago. We create as we speak. Why in the world are you calling that into your universe?
Yep.
Right? If you believe that's true, it's true. Now, procrastination is born out of perfectionism, right? I can't do it perfect. I'm not good enough. Somebody might laugh. Here's a writer downer for you. Other people's opinions and judgments of you are none of your business. They're not about you. They're about them. There's only 2 kinds of business. They're my business and ain't none of my business, right? Their opinions and judgments are about them. It's coming. They got triggered. They don't want to look at that. So they're going to put it off on you. It's not about you. So the first thing I would say is stop claiming that. And I want you to start calling things that aren't as though they are. You must believe and then you see. So you begin to craft empowered statements, right? I am the master at getting things done on time. I am the king of effectiveness and efficiency. Those are just a couple that roll right off of my tongue. You want to start claiming these out loud every day. When I craft these with my clients, I have them put them on a piece of paper. Mine are on my bed every night. It's the first thing I do in the morning, unless I have to pee really bad. It's the first thing I do, but I don't turn on my phone. I don't turn on the TV. And it's the last thing I do at night. Your brain will work on what you give it at night, and your brain is a sponge in the morning because it's rested, right? Procrastination is born out of perfectionism. If you wait until something's perfect, you will never get it done, ever. Done is better than perfect. Here's one of the things I do with my clients every day. And this, whoever asked this question, this is what I would encourage you to do. And everybody on this call, every morning, unless you prefer to plan at night, you can plan at night. I want you to write down 3 bite-sized, digestible, doable things. These are things that you can do. Change your definition of success. Number 1, success is in the attempt. It is not in the end game. When you set a goal, you don't own that goal. That goal is way out there, but you own your intention every day when you get up. You own what you intend to do every day. And I want them to be bite-sized, digestible, and doable, because then what you do is you celebrate the fact that you did them without judgment. It's not like, oh, that sucked, I'm not going to celebrate. No. Yay, I got into action. What worked, what didn't work, I can make a mid-course correction. And what happens is people get so focused on the big goal that it becomes overwhelming and they want to quit. Richard Branson says, do not confuse needing a nap with needing to quit. Sometimes you just need a nap. And these tools that I'm giving you allow you to rest in between and to look at those things. And then ask yourself, what's the fear underneath perfectionism? What's the fear underneath there? What are you really afraid of? One of the things I work with I have one client who's adopted this so well, it's phenomenal, is that fear and excitement release the exact same hormones in your body and chemicals. And so she has gotten so good at going, I give myself permission to consider, write that down. It's a powerful phrase. I give myself permission to consider that this could be excitement. What a reframe that's allowed her to step into challenges she would never step into before. It's allowed her, you heard me say earlier, I help what? People know their value, own their power, and advocate for themselves. So before she met me, this particular client also happens to be my social media manager, long before she became my client. And before she did this, she had been asked, she lives out in New York City, and she had been asked by a nonprofit to give a training class on LinkedIn. She's great on LinkedIn, to their graduates. And so she did. And she charged them $35 an hour. So she made what, $52 for 90 minutes. I didn't know this. Fast forward, she's working with me for 2 months. This same person called her back and said, we have 2 more graduating classes. Will you come teach that same course? And she said, yes, I will. It'll be $250 each. And they paid it like that. So now she's learning her value. And she said, Carol, what one of the most impactful things for me is if the woman said no, I was willing to walk away, because now I know I'm worth a whole lot more than $35 an hour. Powerful. A lot of that has to do with reframing. Reframing. Here's a question for you, Mr. Procrastinator. And everybody can take this and use this. I said they're time-bound, and Paul is laughing. I'm wondering if it's Paul. Time-bound and specific. Paul's like, no way. They're time-bound and they're specific. So you can ask yourself, what one thing, specific, that I'm not doing today, time-bound, that if I were to do it, would elevate every area of my business? Or you could say would accelerate, right? Because you're sitting in procrastination. So it's what one thing that I'm not doing? Remember, the answer is outside of your jar. You're not doing it today. What one thing am I not doing that if I were to do it would accelerate everything in my business? Put that out loud to God in the universe 6 to 8 times a day, every day, every day. Craft those empowered statements of who you were truly created to be. I'm telling you. And I don't know if I can say this on your show, Mike, but one of my hashtags, and my social media manager said, we're going to get t-shirts and we're going to put hashtag TSW on the front, Carol Boston Coaching. And on the back, it's going to say, this shit works, because it does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you one more quick story. May I?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to tell you the point to the story, and then I'm going to tell you the story. Your purpose is dying in the place of your insecurities. You're put here for a purpose. Nobody has a fingerprint just like you. God went to a lot of trouble to make sure that everybody has a different fingerprint, but that's so that you can leave a unique handprint on the world. If you're procrastinating, if you're hiding, if you're playing small, if you're playing afraid, your purpose will die in the place of your insecurities. 3 years ago, I had a young man referred to me, genius, 23 years old, had created a product that was nowhere on the market. Investors came, they saw his brilliance, they invested money in the company. They had meetings set up for him with Saks Fifth Avenue, with Macy's, with Sephora, product, never on the market. They came to me and they said, Carol, he's got to go through your program or we're going to have to kick him out of his own company. So he comes, he has his first meeting with me, and he says, yeah, I don't think I can afford that investment. And I said, is that the question? Isn't the question, can you afford not to? They're going to kick you off the board of your own company. And he got up and left. Now, there happened to be a cafe at the front of my building. And so I would see him occasionally, and I always gave him a hug. His name was Diego. And I'd say, Diego, what else is possible? And he would get super defensive. He goes, I don't have a credit card. I don't recall asking about a credit card, but okay. Next time I see him, I give him a hug again. What else is possible? I cannot ask my parents for money. This is a true story. Time goes by, and this member of the board comes back to me, and they said, Carol, will you talk to him one more time? And I said, no, I've given him enough of my time. My time is valuable. I really didn't want to talk to this kid again. I'm a sucker for doing favors for friends, though. So I said, yes. I'll never forget. It was a Monday night. He and I have a phone call. I get off the phone. I go home. No big deal. 3 days later, there I am sitting in my easy chair at night, having my cocktail, and my phone and my email start blowing up from this kid. And he says, you tell whoever's trying to take over my company, I'm going to be the CEO, blah, 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 blah. Right. But wow, what empowering question did I ask this kid? I want an appointment next week. He says, I give an appointment. He comes in, and I said, help me understand. I said, how is it that you're going to pay me? And he reaches down and he pats his pocket. He says, I'm going to pay you cash. Can I pay you cash twice a month? I'm like, yeah, I love cash. I said, tell me what happened in that call Monday night. And he said, every time that you told me to say, what else is possible? I walked away and said, that woman is so woo-woo. She's so woo-woo. He said, but that night you told me a story that tied it all together. So I decided I would try. Get up, go to work. I said, what else is possible today? And he knew exactly where he was, gearing in on the situation. He said, I did it. I go to basketball. What else is possible? And all of a sudden, after 3 days, it came to me. Now I want you to listen to this Oprah aha moment. He said, all I have to do is find 2 more people, not 2 people, 2 more people to teach how to speak and read and write Spanish. He was already teaching people outside of his job, and he couldn't get out of his jar that you have to have a credit card. He has to have money from his parents. He said, and so I did. Right? Phenomenal story, except that his purpose died in the place of his insecurities. He came for 1 month and he quit. That product is not on the market. He was afraid to sell. He was afraid to let people down. He was afraid to be judged. Multi-million dollar idea. Get into action without judgment. Your biggest critic is you. Find a good coach like Michael. Find someone to support you. You can do this. It's a matter of reframing where you are. And here's the thing, folks, and I had to learn this. Oftentimes, the path that we fear the most is the one that we're meant to be on. The one we're meant to be on. I hope that blessed everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you brought up something that, I focus on in my practice and in this group, and that is to be able to go into the future, right? If you're afraid of doing something right now, I take people into the future and just experience having done it and having it already worked out, and experience, what does that look like? What does it feel like? What is that person? How do they carry themselves? What's your home like? What's your financial situation like? To where you begin to have accepted the new reality of what that success brings you.
Yes.
And then you reverse engineer it into those little tiny pieces.
Yes.
Little tiny pieces. Right?
Yep.
You didn't learn how to play tennis in one day, right?
No.
You made little tiny progress, right? First,
oh my gosh. Are you gonna make me tell you this story?
Yeah, your serve, your return, your net game, your backhand, your forehand. That didn't come in one day. Those were little tiny incremental learnings, right?
One of the 7 steps in it's called Limitless Leadership, 7 steps in unstoppable business. Step number 7 is called Raise Your Game, how to become a professional athlete in your business. And the first thing a professional athlete does is what? They show up every single day, no matter what they feel like. My clients learn how to make business decisions and not feeling decisions. You're never going to feel whoever Mr. Procrastinator is, if you're waiting till you feel like it, it is never going to get done. You cannot feel your way into acting, but you can act your way into feeling. And the second thing I teach is that sometimes you have to practice when everybody else is resting, but it doesn't mean you become a workaholic. So there I was playing number 6 at LSU. It's just the scholarship story is an amazing story in and of itself, because I didn't start playing till I was 15. But The rest of the team all took the summer off, and I got on the 21 and under tour, and I worked. They had all been playing since they were 5 years old. We came back for tryouts in August, and I went from the same people on the team plus one new freshman. I went from number 6 to number 2. By the end of that semester, I played number 1, and I became team leader and played number 1 for LSU for 3 years. Sometimes you have to be willing to practice when everybody else is resting. And the third thing I would tell you, I have several bullets under this. I love this. But the third thing I would tell you is you have to be willing to do the same thing over and over and over without judgment, without a bad attitude, right? Success is in the attempt because you're going to get better. You're going to get better. So yeah. Stephen Furtick is a pastor out of North Carolina. And he tells a story about how he was learning, he played tennis, and he only invited people to play tennis with him who he knew he could beat, right? And he said, so finally one day he said, I guess I better get some lessons. He goes, and I thought I had a pretty good serve. So this pro gets me with this big basket of balls. And the first thing he says is, let's see your serve. He goes, so I get it up and I hit the ball and it goes in the service thing. And I'm right. The pro says, first thing we have to do is we have to change your grip. Your grip is totally wrong. So he changed his grip. And he said, now hit a serve. And as he tells the story, he goes, not only did my ball not go in the service box, it didn't go in the court. Sometimes it didn't stay inside the fence. And he goes, I wanted to go back to what was familiar. I wanted to go back to what was familiar. And he said, sometimes moving forward will feel backwards. It will feel backwards, but you have to stick with it because it's new and it's change. And the only place you're going to grow is when you get uncomfortable. Discomfort, here's a writer downer for you. Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. What are you willing to get uncomfortable in to have what you say you want?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. Carol, would you be willing to take some more questions?
Sure.
Folks, let's, I'm going to get the big view here. And again, let's use our, play well together with each other, and just one at a time. If you would unmute yourself, actually, if you could press your button to raise your hand, that helps us. And I'm going to let Carol call on you when she sees your hand, and then you'll unmute yourself and ask your question. So I know you have some.
Now I can't see everybody in the view that I have. I can only see like 5 people across the top.
Okay, well I can see everyone, so I'll call them. Okay, so who wants to be the first to ask Carol a question?
Bring me any challenge. Doesn't have to be a business challenge.
Yeah.
It can be a personal challenge, a parenting challenge. I may just have to tell my parent story here in a minute, but
can even be a challenge you're having with me. She'll help you solve it. Mark.
Yeah, it's very exciting to hear what you're sharing, Carol. It's I know the truth of what you're talking about. I remember I was really incredibly shy and when I was a teenager, and this friend helped me get a girlfriend by using an affirmation. Mm. And I remember like the first affirmation was, I love myself. Mm. And I had a tough time saying it. Every time I said it, it made me laugh. Mm-hmm. And I finally started to say that. And then we worked towards the affirmation about getting a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend within like a few months. And I saw the magic of that, like the reframing. I love what you're doing. It's so exciting. I'm just going to ask you one question that comes to mind. And I know this is an upper limit issue. It's like, I will achieve something. I'll really be patting myself on the back. I'm super happy. And I always want to rest after I've achieved that. Like, I just want to settle in, take it all in. And, and I'm on this kind of coasting, I'm doing my main maintenance stuff, but it's like, it seems like I'm having a tough time, like handling the success that's kind of imminent. What's the reframe, or what would be a great affirmation, or what can you share with me about the challenge I'm experiencing?
The first thing I would ask you is, what is the underlying fear? So when you picture success, and I know because I had to go through this exact same thing. It's why I help my clients. I was afraid 4 years ago of being successful. So see, I was the procrastinator because I was the perfectionist. I get it. That's how I can help my clients. And I had to learn that the fear for me was, oh my God, they're going to put me on a pedestal. When I fall, I'm going to fall big time. I didn't want the accountability. I didn't want the visibility. I didn't want the responsibility. Could somebody else just please run my business and let me coach? Just let me coach. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you, right? So here's what happens. When you go back into this coasting place, we get complacent, right? Complacent lives in the area of mediocrity. And you don't want to be there. You were destined for greatness, right? So what one thing, I'll give you a couple of 3 things you can ask yourself if you want to write them down. What one thing, remember we want to be specific and time bound. What one thing can I believe that I don't believe today about success that would change my entire life? Powerful question. And I hope you get them written down the first time because they roll off my tongue and I'm not always able to repeat them. How can I show up today for me so that I love and honor the business person that I was created to be? How would the person I want to become do the thing I'm about to do? So when you get ready to go sit on your couch, and watch Netflix or whatever it is that you do, and you picture, just like Michael said, you picture who you are in the future, you own that, you begin to embody it, right? How would that person do what you're about to do? Who am I being behind closed doors? Who am I being behind closed doors when nobody's watching, right? I was challenged with that 4 or 5 years ago. I loved corporate American structure. I was challenged to set up my own structure. I wasn't watching TV. I was chasing shiny objects, though. Boy, I was busy, but I wasn't effective, right? I was getting a lot done. I was efficient, but I was not effective. So that self-love piece is so, so, so big for everyone. I would encourage you to go back to that and begin to claim it again today. I know that you did it a long time ago, but here's the thing, and you hear this in our industry a lot now, and you hear it a lot from pastors. They say, new level, new devil. No, I don't believe that. It's a new level. It's the same devil. And you're trying at 40 or 50 or 60 years old, however old you are, you're trying to fight that devil with the technique and tactics that you used as a teenager, and it doesn't work. You need new tools, right? But you can still have that foundational piece. Love yourself enough to know that you were created for greatness, right? I hope that's helpful.
Awesome.
That is really, really helpful. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. And you know, it brings to mind that, you know, many of us feel that the thing holding us back is the fear of failure. But for many of us, it's also the fear of success. Because am I going to have to change, and what do I give up to have my dream? You know, by having my dream, by having the successful business, by having the, you know, the successful practice or whatever a goal it is that you now are reaching out and reaching, as they said in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
When we make the commitment to move beyond our limitations, we also make the commitment to live a more limitless life.
Yes.
And we give up the sitting on the couch 24/7 watching Netflix. We give that up because we've come closer to being who we were meant to be, as Carol talks about. And with that comes a responsibility to serve life, to serve others at the higher level of achievement that we have achieved. because that's why we wanted it in the first place. And that's why we're given the grace to achieve that, is because with that gift we receive, there is the responsibility to share it. And that means there's the responsibility to change, right?
Absolutely. And here's another question you could ask yourself, Mark, or anybody else has found themselves in a difficult situation. Here's the thing, no human being, including all of us, does anything repetitively without getting a payoff. But payoffs aren't always positive. That's the kicker. I mean, I go to the gym 3-4 times a week and it's a positive payoff, right? When I started my business and I didn't have any structure and I was chasing shiny object, I kept doing the same thing over and over. It wasn't, the payoff was, it was allowing me to stay stuck, right? It was allowing me to not step up. So it was serving me not in a healthy way. So ask yourself, when you have a big success, you celebrate, but then you don't want to get back in action. Okay, so how is this serving me? How is this serving me today? Is a big, powerful question that you can ask yourself. I see we have another hand up from Samarit. Samarit. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Everything you're saying is just for me. So I'm on fire. So my challenge is the thing that you said. I'm challenged to know my value and to advocate for myself. So in terms of being very specific, I signed up a coaching client, asked for more money than I had ever asked for, because he was in deep trouble. And so we got out of trouble. He paid me. We had a fantastic experience. And then I get to sign him up again. But now he's no longer in trouble. We have to move forward. And my mindset is stuck in, he paid me that much money because he was in deep trouble, as opposed to knowing my value, that whatever I am, my presence is worth repeating that price in signing him up again. So that's my challenge.
I'm curious. Did he tell you he paid you that much money because he was in trouble?
Nope.
Okay, so here's the thing, often, folks, when we're desperate, we will come to a conclusion and we will call it a fact. When we are desperate, we will come to a conclusion and we will call it a fact. Right? And so possibly he paid you because he trusted that you could help him.
And you did.
And you did. So you've already set a precedent. People don't have to be in deep, deep, deep trouble to need support and help. Remember, it's the little shifts. It's not always something massive. It's the little shifts. Sometimes it's that one question. I had a lady a couple of months ago. We do it by phone. She's sick of Zoom calls with her business, and that's fine. So we're on the phone. And all of a sudden, she goes, "That was worth the entire investment in your program." And I said, "Really?" She said, "You just set me financially free." I'm still working with her. Guess what? When her 6 months is up, she's going to hire me again. She's already told me. Even so, she got that profound effect. So part of that is in trusting. If I asked you this question, how many steps ahead of this man are you in what he's trying to accomplish?
Many.
How many?
Many.
Many.
Many, like, a year's
Exactly.
worth.
So here's the deal. You only have to be 2 or 3 steps ahead to be able to help somebody that's behind you. And here's the thing. When you went through what they're going through, you developed an immunity to it. So your job is to reach your hand back and bring them forward with you. To know your value, it's about starting with those I am statements. Craft 10 or 12 I am statements. I am worthy and deserving of being highly paid every day. I'm a powerful CEO of a coaching firm that rapidly changes lives for the better. That's a good one, right? Rapidly changes lives for the better. And it isn't about the money. And you're not selling anybody anything. I'm giving a talk tomorrow. It's called Sales versus the Art of Influence, right? What you're doing is you're acting as a conduit to help them get what they want. If they could get it on their own, if it was in their jar, they would have it. You're on the outside looking in, and you're able to see things outside of the jar that they can't see. I believe God only gave us a lamplight for our feet because all we have to do is take the next step and trust in the process. I'm asking you to trust in the process. Take the next step and advocate for yourself. Right? Is that helpful at all?
Big time.
You said yes, Michael?
Big time, yes. Big time, yes.
Did she, Samarit, is there another question or anything that I could help you with?
I want the powerful question. What did you call them? Empowering question.
Empowering question around your value?
Around my value and advocating for myself in that value.
Okay. You ready? Got your pen ready?
I've got my pen. I even got my paper.
How can I show up today? You're going to ask this every day. Stand in my power. Know my value. And be in service to others.
Thank you.
More so with my female clients than my male clients. They don't want to own. We were raised up to what? Smile pretty, don't make waves, don't brag. Oh my gosh. I actually got an award, a speaking award. And I was in a group of women, all women. It was on women in leadership. And I said, how many of you have ever heard somebody say, they look at a woman in power, right? A woman who advocates for herself and they go, she's just a bitch, right? So some of the hands went up. And I said, okay, how many of you who didn't raise your hand? Come on. You've actually said that exact same thing. And the hands went up. The hands went up. You will never be something that you dislike. How are you going to be a powerful businesswoman if you think it's being a bitch, right? Men advocate for themselves all the time. Look at the job market, going for a job. A man, statistics prove that a man only has to be 60% qualified and he will go for that job. He'll figure it. Yeah, I'll get in there and figure it out. Women have to be 100% before they'll even apply for a job. Trust in what you know. Right. Here's an exercise everybody could do. What I know for sure. Write down your list of what I know for sure. And anytime something gets uncomfortable, it gets tight, go back to that. Like for me, what I know for sure, I'm a child of the Most High God. What I know for sure, I am highly favored. What I know for sure, I'm a powerful CEO of a coaching business that's making a marked difference in the lives of others. I know this for sure. There's no doubt. I know I'm the queen of Reframe. I haven't met another coach that even comes close to being able to craft empowering questions. So many coaches ask the question, why, all the time. It makes me crazy. You're not going to help your client get to the answer that they're looking for with a why question. Here's something for all of you who have that fear and get stuck. I'm actually putting a program together called Armorless Leadership. And the 4 pillars are, I have nothing to defend. I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to hide. And I have nothing to protect. When you can own those 4 things, you will step into your power every day.
Wow. Wow. You may have covered it, but when you said you can never be something you dislike, I am working out of the addiction to having you like me. I can't own my value because I'm so worried about whether or not you're going to like me or not.
Back when I was at AT&T in the 90s for 10 years, it was back in turmoil, right? The government had just broken up AT&T and all the baby bells and competition was fierce. My claim to fame was once I got a client, I never lost a client. It was unheard of because competition was so fierce. I never lost a client. And then I started paying attention to some of my peers, and they lost clients and they were still making more money than me. I went on rides with them. I had to see what they did and what they were doing. You know what I learned? It is way more important for somebody to respect me than to like me. Right. And once I learned that, and I took much more assertive steps to get my clients to buy what I know was good for them, not only did they respect me more, guess what? I made a lot more money and they still liked me. Right. And they still liked me. You're worried about somebody else not liking you because you don't like you. And you may not want to hear that. The things that we project out onto other people are the things that we don't want to look at inside us. You could ask yourself every day, what inside me needs to be healed today? Right? So that I can. And you could put several answers after these, so that I can. If everybody likes you, you are taking a stand for nothing. Your haters will tell you who you are. Your haters will tell you, how many haters does Tony Robbins have? He doesn't care. He doesn't go after it. He doesn't try to convert his haters. Nope. It just helps him focus more on his tribe. Haters will tell you who you are in a good way. You can't be for everybody. That means you're taking a stand for nothing. But when you know your point of view and it's irrefutable, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And it's going to take time to get there, right? Often the most difficult things is to unlearn something that's been with us for so long. And that's where you are. What's at the root of that? Go back to your childhood. When did you first start believing that everybody had to like you? And look at the root of that and how that played out in your life. And here's the thing for everybody on this call, because everybody has a purpose. 10,000 people woke up this morning and they cried silent tears because they're looking for a solution to their problem. You have the solution. Get up and go find them and serve them. Go serve them. I hope that was helpful.
That was extremely helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wow. Well, we're coming to that point where it's time to go around and ask you to share a word or a sentence about what was most important to you, what the gift that you received, something that you received that was most important to you. Before we do that, Carol, thank you. Not just for what you did today, not just for what you shared, but what you exemplified, which spoke even louder than the words. We're incredibly grateful for your time and your presence and your generosity of spirit and sharing. We definitely will talk after this about some other things that we can do together. But I can't say thank you enough for me and for this group.
You are quite welcome. It is absolutely a blessing for me to be here and to pour into your people. I appreciate the opportunity.
So give you all a chance to let Carol know and let us know what was the most valuable thing you are taking away today that you will put some attention on and do something with. What you're grateful for, any one of those two things. Let's keep it to a word or a sentence. Alan, you raised your hand.
Yeah. What I got is 25 list of 25 things I wrote down that she said that was really important, and I will review them every day for the next few days because so much knowledge into that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Who's next? Thelma. Then Marvin. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Carol, for all that you've said. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Uh, um, I'm inspired to finally face myself.
That's awesome. Thank you for being vulnerable and courageous and sharing that. Oftentimes we are our own worst enemy, and we're unable to hear all the good that other people say about us and take it in and own it. You're way more powerful than you give yourself credit for, and you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. And this is an opportunity to test that one little step at a time and celebrate every time you take a step.
Thank you, Thelma. Marvin, and then Paul.
Empowering statement that that really smashed, that people really do listen to me, because I've been fighting that for a long time. And Mike's really brought that out, that I need to reframe that, because it's not true. It's not true. It's illusion, completely illusion. So thank you.
You are welcome.
Claudette's got something too.
Yeah, what else is possible today? That's
Fantastic.
very powerful. And what you said about the procrastination, I got a few things to work on. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Paul, Chris, and then Emily. Paul.
Thank you, Carol. It's time to get off the roller coaster ride.
Good. One step at a time.
That's it. One step at a time, one day at a time. One action at a time.
Yep.
Where did they go?
Chris here.
Yeah, Chris.
First of all, thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
I have a concept that I call roadblocks, and it's just the negative of what you called empowering statements. And I have to flip the sign. And thank you. I appreciate how much that is going to be worth for me going forward. And
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I want to tell you and everybody else, oftentimes people say, oh, I ran into a brick wall, run into another brick wall, right? And they think the brick wall was put there to stop them. It isn't. The brick wall is there to see who wants it bad enough, who's willing to either crawl over or do whatever they have to go around. And so when that comes up for you, that negative thought, I want you to think of your monkey mind and go, thank you for sharing, but I'm going to go ahead anyway, right? We can't always control the thoughts that come into our head, but we can control what we do with them and if we choose to dwell on them, right? So that's just a really quick phrase. Oh, look at your monkey. It's just your monkey brain, right? Oh, thanks for sharing. I'm going to move forward anyway, right? You can do this.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Emily.
I just want to thank you so much. I mean, I think you're amazing, fantastic, and just, super, super powerful. And I just want to climb inside your head and absorb what's there. It's like, yes. But what I am coming away with is I want to get better at coming up with those powerful questions. I think that's inspired me. So thank you. Yeah.
Yep. Take those caveats, right? They never start with why. They start with who, what, how, and sometimes where. Make them specific and time bound, and know exactly what you're crafting them around. Right? Like I don't believe in balance in life. I believe in priorities. So if your priority for today is your business and you have a challenge there, that's what you want to craft your empowering questions around. Right? If your priority today is your family, and you got a challenge there, craft it around that. So here's what you want to be specific, because you want God and the universe to know exactly what you want. And that's why it's important that every time you take a step and get into action, especially for the procrastinators, and you get into action, celebrate the fact that you got into action without judgment.
Mhm.
Oh, I want more of that. Makes it easier to get into action.
Awesome. Luba.
Oh, thank you so much. Every word was gold. And going back to the very beginning, the gold was my life is my business. And there are a lot of spaces to fill in there, and it matters what you fill it with. So thank you for that overarching theme to start with.
Quite welcome.
Mark.
I loved become a professional athlete in your business. Don't wait until you feel like it. And I really appreciate the suggestion to revisit I Love Myself. I think that's something that always needs to continue to be worked on. Thank you for the suggestion. Thanks for the great seminar.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there's a saying that we are acknowledged in public for all the work we do in private. And that's real, real important. You know, all of the hard work, all of the focus, all of the things we need to do to have the achievements and the recognition. It's not what people see on the outside. It's what we're doing on the inside, day after day after day, little steps, little steps, little steps. And we're not interested in changing others. We're interested in changing ourselves. When we change ourselves, our world changes, and then we bring about change that then allows people to come into a place where they can change and do the things that they're looking to do. And we facilitate that, but we won't unless we start with ourselves, you know. Carol.
It's so true. I was going to say real quick, that is so true. And if you find yourself, often my clients, they come in and they've been comparing themselves to somebody else. What is Instagram good for? That's about all it's good for, right? So I tell people, don't compare your chapter 1 with somebody else's chapter 35. You haven't read their whole book, right? And one of my mentors taught me back in 2007, Keith Cunningham, an amazing man. He wrote the book Keys to the Vault. He taught me that everybody starts at the back of the line. The question is, are you willing to get in line and stay in line? And how long can you hold the vision?
Beautiful.
Get in line. Now it's time for Carol. Carol with an E.
Yeah. Hi, Carol without an E. Love what you're saying. I've got like 2 pages full of notes. And I'm hoping really that we get to watch this again. I'm really good with repeats because I can't write fast enough to get everything you're saying. Seriously. And I would like to know everything you're saying. But I think there is one thing that I will make my mantra for quite a long time to come. And that is, God, show me what I don't know. Because I go every day thinking that I know what I'm going to do, and I know what I want, and I know who I am, but God knows what I don't know. And that will be my mantra for some time yet. Thank you for that.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow. Well, we are almost at that point of sign off. Anyone else before we end today? Okay, the other Carol with an E. We'll end with you today.
Hi, Carol. Thank you so much. I was totally blown away. And I love everything you said. And I've got a lot of notes. I love what you just said, though, about the line. Everybody starts at the end of the line. That really spoke to me. Everything you said spoke to me. I really liked about clarity. What did you say?
Clarity is power.
Yes. And indecision will cost you. That really, everything spoke to me, but I loved it. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. And one piece of encouragement around that about getting in line and staying in line and how long can you hold the vision is that oftentimes we want our family and our friends to be the one to cheer us on and to support us. And oftentimes they don't, right? Because they're, for whatever reason, they never own their own business or they're afraid or whatever it is. But here's the thing. God didn't give your vision to them. He gave it to you. And your job is to surround yourself, just like you're doing in this community, just like you're doing with Michael. It's your job to surround yourself with the people who are there to give you that hand up, or maybe when you need a push from the butt up, right? They're there to give that to you. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Carol, again, thank you so much for all you've shared and all you've done. And I bought a bunch of Carol's books, and when they arrive, again, we are giving those to the folks who brought the most people to these 3 sessions of the challenge. And I look forward to you having her book, and I'm looking forward to your next book. That's going to be awesome as well. And we will buy a bunch of those when they come out, and we will do the same thing. But
Awesome.
it is time. It is time to respect your time. And you've been, you shared, wow, you've shared 4 hours with us today. That's a lot. Carol, you've shared way more than I had asked you to. Very appreciative of that. But it is time. It is time for you all to enjoy your dinner, enjoy your evening. I'm so grateful that you came here today. I'm so grateful for what you invested and for what you've gained. I love you all. I believe in you all. And I am so excited about the possibilities of what you can do with what you've received today.